Alrighty then, on this video I'm going to be removing the different sections. So I worked with this on my table from the last one. It's not pretty, but unfortunately I'm running out of time with this. I might potentially make this section actually black on there, so it looks like a table or something, DJ desk area, but yeah, you guys can look into that. Actually I'm happier with that. Anyway, we're going to be working with now separating our objects into the different things so we can get to move. Now, for example, I want to maybe make the panda's eyes move. Now, I suppose the pupils would be this here, so I can make these sort of move around a bit. And potentially the nose as well I could get to wiggle, but I'm not going to do that in this because I'm a bit short of time. But in ears, you could think about arms. I probably would need for a later stage to get them to look more like he's DJing. So I'm going to separate those objects out, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use my selection tool here. Now the selection tool, I'd suggest you zoom into the object area that you're going to be working with because it will make your life a bit easier, and you're going to just go around the objects that you're wanting to remove from the other objects. So in this case the eyeball, wanting to remove. And then I would also suggest you select both, especially in the case of eyes, you want both to move simultaneously. It's easier to make them together rather than separate. You can do this at a later stage by merging the layers, so you could select two layers and merge them, but in this case I'm just going to select them. It's not going to allow me to additionally select here. Okay, so I'm going to complete the selection by pressing enter. So enter completes the selection. I was making a mistake in the last video. Now if I press shift, it's going to add this to the selection. So I complete the selection by pressing enter, and now holding shift key, and I'm going to add to my selection. So I'm going to add this eyeball as well to the selection. I'm not being exact because, as I said, I'm a bit pushed for time on this demonstration. Enter. So now I've got both eyeballs selected. Now I'm going to make these eyeballs float. Right click, selection, float. Now, and you right click to a new layer. So the eyeballs are now floating. What I would suggest you do now though is to remove the eyeballs. So you click the eye off here so you don't see it anymore. So there's no more eyes, no. And I would suggest now you fill in those areas. So because it's white, it might be actually easier just to actually keep this selection as stands. And there is the fill key. I don't know if it's a perfect white. That doesn't really help because it's got that little bit of a grey area around the outside. I'd even patch up the grey area, in which case you can use a stamp tool to patch up the grey area. So to use the stamp tool, you would go to the stamp here, change the size of it because I think that's a bit too large. We need to be working on a much smaller scale, also a bit too large. Voila. So let me just check. Whoa. Not quite 1, let's work on 5. 5's a bit too big, let's try work on 3. Okay, so 3, yeah, 3 is okay. So I press Control and select an area, and then it will duplicate that area and across. Okay, there was a little bit of a thing here, so let's just get that right. So Control will choose where you want the cursor to be from, that you're going to duplicate. So it's going to duplicate whatever it's seeing there, over there. So even this will work for any color or anything along those lines. And I'll do the same thing here. So I'll go Control, and I'll highlight it in. And this will allow me, this will allow me now, so if I show my eyes, it'll allow me to move my eyes around with no problem whatsoever. So now when I move my eyeballs, you'll see I can move my eyes wherever, and it won't look funny because of the objects behind them. So I've got the eyeballs as a separate object. And I suggest what you do is you also rename your objects so that they would work with that there. So in this case I'm going to rename this eyeballs. So delete eyeballs. And then we've got the eyeballs on there. And this layer could be just general panda. I'm now going to remove the other objects that I want to work with, and you potentially will need to also just color in the background so that when you move them it won't look so odd. So I'll have to color in the rest of the body of the panda and so forth. And this is why choosing cartoons would be easier. Okay, that's this step done. I will record the rest of what I'm doing here as well in the more detailed section if you're interested. And hopefully I won't make as many mistakes as in the last one. Goodbye.